Everyone's Tribe. We'll go ahead and get started. My name's Andy Harkeby. I'm the Director of Congregational Engagement at Bethel. I have the fortune and pleasure of knowing all of you already. Ellen Reich and Allison Levinson, who are here, are the two Tribe co-chairs. I just want to say, on behalf of the Tribe leadership team, we've worked hard throughout the year to really, get tribes to the forefront of the congregation. So I just wanted to say on that note, I want to welcome all of you to this Tribe Leader Training. A few things I want to hit on, and I will eventually share my screen. We'll talk a lot. I think Allison has already sent you all the Tribe Leader Guide. Hopefully you've had the chance to look through it or print it out. And if you haven't, don't worry, we'll share our screen. But one thing that I think is really important to emphasize is the Tribe Leader Guide is exactly that. It is a guide. When Rabbi Knight got here, when he arrived from Dallas at Temple Emmanuel, we talked about the semantics of a guide or a manual. And one thing that I think is really important about why we call it specifically a Tribe Leader Guide is the word manual. It's like when you have a driver's manual, this is what you must do. This is what you must follow. You're commanded to do this. You're commanded not to do this. What we've learned with tribes is there is no one size fits all. We think that every tribe is different. Every tribe leader is different. And it's not up to the temple to tell you exactly how to run all aspects of your tribe. We want to provide you the guide. We want to provide you the resources and the support and the tools to be successful. And we really want you to feel empowered to make it your own. So that's one of the big reasons why we were quite intentional about calling it a Tribe Leader Guide. Two other things I really want to emphasize before we dive right into the training is, tribes have been really amazing, and it's an amazing addition to Temple Bethel in the last few years. It started out of a baby boomer and empty nester listening campaign. We launched approximately 30 tribes when our original goal was about 10 tribes, and there was really a demand for community. It was a great place to make a big temple feel smaller, for people to connect with one another, for people to build deep relationships with one another. And it's really allowed people, some of whom have known each other for years, to really deepen their connections. And something else that I think is really somewhat unique to Charlotte, as more and more people move here, Charlotte becomes bigger and bigger with the suburbs. Something that I think has actually grown since I wrote these numbers down, but last year, our religious school, which is just a nice little sample population, we had over 75 schools represented in our religious school and 25 different zip codes. And that is just a small segment of our synagogue. I mean, we have people that live in Waxhaw and Ballantyne. It's not just from Shalom Park to Arboretum anymore. We have people that live an hour away and drive multiple times a week to Temple. And tribes have really helped those people create their smaller communities based on geography or interests, or where they are in life. And I think that's really important. And even more so during COVID, when people are not able to get together, it's hard to join a program when there's 50 people. And I see Rabbi Class just wrote and that's correct. That's just out of the 300 students, with very few Jewish kids in each school. Thank you, Rabbi Class, for that addition. And I think the other thing, as we've talked about COVID, is it's been that much more important for people to connect. It's hard to get on a Zoom call with 50 people. Tribes have really helped people be seen, be heard, and be known. It's obvious when you're not there. So there's a different level of accountability and wanting you to show up, to be present, and be active in a tribe. So those are really the few things I wanted to emphasize up front. I am going to share my screen, and I apologize in advance if I look like I'm not looking at you. I promise I'm still looking at you. It's just I have multiple screens going on. So we are going to go into the guide on page 8. And I'm going to actually ask for an attendee to read the vision statement. Here we go. Is someone able to just volunteer? If you are, feel free to just unmute yourself and read the Tribe Vision statement. I know there's many leaders here. Someone can do it.
I gotcha. Tribe Vision Statement. Imagine hundreds of congregants gathering regularly in small groups to learn and laugh, to rest and rejuvenate, and to deepen connections to one another, to the Jewish people, and to the rhythms of Jewish time and life. Tribes will help Temple Bethel realize this future of a connected, committed membership through the formation of small groups, which will focus on the lives and significant concerns of our members, organize around shared interests, life stages, and geographies, feature shared Jewish experiences, learning, and celebration, be self led by lay leaders working in a group dynamic.
Thank you, Sherry, very much. We're gonna jump down to page 9 as well and talk about our core purpose and mission and our hexagon, which is our lovely banner that you will see at the front entrance. Sherry, can you pick another volunteer to read the section on the core purpose and mission?
Of course. See, I'm going to choose. Let's see. I gotta scroll down. Here we go. Let's see. Andrea.
Okay, I'm going to give this a shot. It's showing up very small on my screen. So if I can't read it, I'll let you all know. There, definitely better. Thanks. Okay, so that first paragraph, tribes are about creating relationships and deep connections that inspire personal growth and cultivate meaning so we can transform ourselves, our communities, and our world. Tribes are about developing stakeholders where Temple Bethel members own their own Jewish lives and feel intimately connected to each other and our community. Tribes are about small groups of people that are learning together through the pursuit of Jewish wisdom, praying together and developing personal spiritual practices and inspiring worship that uplifts the soul and connects to God. Acting together through ongoing significant acts of loving kindness and world repair, playing together in fun social settings where people can relax, laugh, and be ourselves, caring for each other by valuing and supporting one another in times of joy and sorrow, and are accountable to each other through shared leadership that serves the best interests of the individual and community.
Thank you very much, Andrea. I think this is something that's really important to all of Temple Bethel. As it says a little bit, the people are at the very center of this. The best part about tribes, as well as many other aspects of Bethel, is we've really created a community where we hope that all of our tribes will be able to do all of these things. We have tribes that, their primary focus is coming together for Torah study or learning, but we hope that they'll still participate in a social justice event or come together to pray for a Shabbat service. We have people that love getting together for Shabbat, and we hope that they'll still have some fun together and play together and act together. So we really want to make sure that our tribes are diverse and really have a well-balanced tribe, which gives us the perfect segue to go into Allison, who will talk about the balanced tribes.
So on the agenda, I have two things to talk about. One is a balanced tribe, but also what a small group is not. And these basically go hand in hand, even though they're not on adjoining pages.
Wondering if, you want me to do the expectations first, since it is the top of the page? And that was my...
why don't you do that? And then I'll just about the next.
Okay. So expectations of members. Meet regularly in a home or agreed upon setting that is conducive to a safe space. We have discovered Zoom, while not as good as in person, is very good and can actually fix a number of sometimes challenges of small homes, or, so when we're COVID free, we may still incorporate Zoom. Agree to and observe a breach or a covenant with each other. And we'll have a whole section about what that is. Create real and honest relationships. Have meaningful discussion of provided materials where applicable. Encourage regular attendance by the majority of the members. Include sharing by all members, so holding space for everybody. Create a place where members are present for each other. Embrace all members of the group. Have fun and look for joyful opportunities. Participate in acts of justice. Celebrate Shabbat holidays and life cycles together. Attend temple programs or larger gatherings together. Support group members in times of need and celebrate times of joy. And again, we don't, all tribes do not do all these things, certainly not all the time, but that is a lovely buffet of what members can do. Expectations of tribe leaders. Communicate outside tribe meetings. Either following up with somebody if something's going on, or just being sure to keep everybody in the loop of when the next meeting is. Tend to the group as a whole. encourage shared responsibilities, and provide feedback to coaches and core leadership team on how is it going and if you need help or you're not sure about something.
The idea of a well-balanced tribe means that we're hitting on all of these things some of the times, maybe at every meeting, maybe not at every meeting, but that you're not only one thing. You're not just meeting every week, or well, we don't, not every week because we say monthly, but you're not meeting every month just to play a game, because you're going to do more than play a game. You're going to come together and you're going to share in a meaningful way. Typically you would have a program and then you would have a relational section of the meeting. So when we talk about what a tribe is not, it's really, we're saying you're all these things, but then you're not these, because you're not going to be just a social group. And one of the things that really struck me when I was reading how this is responding, that it's not a social club, because I have found, and I think, at least for me, and I would assume for Ellen, when we're going to talk about being a leader or what it means to be in a tribe, we're going to be talking about our own experience. And I think some of you are already in tribes, so you already know this same experience. But when you have a tribe, you have a certain level of commitment, and that is generated by the leader and by the members, because it is a commitment. And I know that every third Saturday of the month, I have my tribe meeting, and I make sure I don't schedule anything around it. And if something better, not better, if something else comes up, I try to work my schedule so that I can do both rather than skip my tribe meeting because of the other event. So whereas if it were maybe just a social club, you'd say, oh, whatever, it's fine. I don't have to go to that this month. Nobody's going to miss me. But we become, and what the leader does is help create the synergy within the group that it really, when someone is missing, you notice that that person is missing. And it makes a big difference. It makes a difference in the conversation. It makes the difference in the interactions between the people. And so that's why we say, this is more than just a social club, or it's not a weekly meeting we talked about, it's a commitment that you have on your calendar every month. Tribes can be, like we saw, it's funny because I want to move this and I can't. But where we talked about the expectations of members and all the different things we can do, and Ellen said, it's a buffet of things that we can do, and but we're not going to be doing any one thing all the time. And so that's the balance that we try to create by saying we're going to work together, play together, act together, learn together, be accountable to each other, and care for each other. One other thing I just want to say, and this was basically about my tribe, where we say a tribe is not home-based. Certainly meeting in the home and on Zoom, let's talk after Zoom, because we don't want to be on Zoom all the time, right? It's not just home-based. So I'm in the wine and geography tribe, and we have mostly met in people's homes, but we have gone to restaurants where they're a wine restaurant, where we have had somebody provide us a little program for us. And we've taken field trips to wineries. And now next month in March, we're going to do that Queen's University tour where they take you around Charlotte. So that's our geography component. And then we're going to meet afterwards and I'll bring our own wine. Rather than focus on a specific wine, we're really focusing on the geography. So that's what's great, is that you're really not limited to any one place or one thing, and you can really branch out and make it a great experience. So one last thing, this where it talks about a tribe is not group therapy. We've heard a lot of, I'm sorry, I can't think of the word, testaments from people about how they've been supported in the time of need when something's been going on in their tribe. So it's not that the tribe members are trying to fix something or the leaders trying to fix something, but that you're showing support in any way that you can. And that's a really nice component of tribes. We have this connection to the temple and life events, and that's really what our religion, I think, is built around. And so we can take that to the next level within our tribes. So I think that's all I want to say. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Andy or Ellen?
I think you said it all very well. I know we have some Q&A at the end, but I'm looking at the agenda. I believe Ellen may be next talking about, or sorry, I guess it's still you, Allison, for what a small group is and what a small group is not.
I already did that.
Yeah, she
Oh,
finished
sorry.
that.
You're right. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. I'm looking away.
Yeah, I'm up. I'm up. So the again, some of this, on the one hand, I feel like, oh, is this repetitive to you guys? And maybe in a way it is, but if it's because they're all important ideas. So I'm on bottom of page 12, but key ideas for effective tribe leaders, help the tribe develop and observe a breed. Again, being generous authority was a phrase Rabbi Esther Letterman, who
Letterman,
yeah, I'm listening as messing her name that she was quoting somebody else, but the idea of having guide rails, this breed, again, it's not, I mean, it sort of is rules. It's like group etiquette. It's what we are responsible about. And somebody's, sort of stepping up, we'll be creating it together. Like I say, that's a little bit farther down in the agenda, but somebody, and that's a leader, sort of is the buck stops here kind of thing. Ultimately, it is up to the leader. If the group, is not stepping in to sort of self, I hate to say police, but, just keep people on track and to continue to honor whatever the breed is that you self-create together. The leader creates a safe space and embraces those who are present. Again, can be kind of subtle to really listen, and with the Zoom component, helping sometimes monitor not interrupting somebody else. But that's part of creating a safe space, giving people time to talk, and then of course, time to step up and step back, not to over talk. So everybody has time and space. Scheduling the tribe gatherings so the group meets regularly. Again, that's something y'all decide as a tribe initially, how often you want to meet. Once a month is the most common. There are variations on that. But again, typically being the spearhead, I guess, on sending reminder email, just making sure it gets done each month, that everybody either knows where they're going or what the Zoom link is. Provide, organize a nosh in the location of the tribe gathering. It is a very nice thing. It's a very Jewish thing. I must say, even before Zoom, our tribe was not a nashi tribe. Sometimes people would volunteer to bring things, but that wasn't something we have done a lot. But it is a nice thing. It's certainly encouraged. Let's see, facilitate or delegate the facilitation of the learning. Making sure somebody has got something, if it's not you, working with somebody if they're not sure, whether it's a big question, whether it's something totally different, the resources are available. And even if somebody else is going to be doing the leading, again, as a leader, you want to make sure the month ahead that somebody is on deck, either they're good to go, or if they need some guidance, you can be there to work with them if they want that. Encourage shared responsibilities. It's kind of the same, to me, exactly the same thing. Communicate with tribe members outside the meetings. Communicate with your coach. Generally everything runs really smoothly. It's great, but for example, I haven't needed to call my coach in a really long time, but a tiny thing happened and my tribe met today that I want to talk to my coach about. It was one of these things that we were all, it was like in the 15 minutes before we sort of formally began. We just set it up that way to kind of dribble in, schmooze with each other. And then like at 2 o'clock sharp, we sort of begin and move on to the substance. And a lot of people were interested and we're talking about the impeachment today. And kind of, I've know in the back of my head, other people have sometimes said, I don't want my tribe I don't want to do politics here. But it wasn't a huge complaint. It's not a big deal. But one of our members just like literally interrupted somebody who was speaking and said, I don't want to talk about this. Let's talk about the Jewish films. And it was a little abrupt. She stated her need, and I'm still not sure. I mean, it just went on. But that's something that I want to process, for example, with my coach in terms of should I have done something in response, anything different. So coaches are there. Lots of times you, especially when you're up and running, you will not give a coach a second thought, but it really is nice that there are others around that you can reach out to just sort of brainstorm, what is best for the group? What might you be able to do in the future or to handle it differently? So that was pretty much that section for me.
Alan, two things I want to really highlight, and we'll talk a little bit more about the leadership structure, but I think, one of the biggest things we hear from people that are thinking about being a tribe leader is, can I do this? Can I take it on? Like, I'm not a rabbi, I'm not a teacher. How do I do this? How do I go at it alone? And I think the big thing is really to know that you're not alone. As Ellen mentioned, you have the coaches that you're assigned a coach who's basically a mentor. Every single guide has a coach that is a veteran, either a veteran guide or someone that is on the leadership team that goes through different training. So they're able to give you some extra support. And then obviously Ellen, Allison, and me are part of the, Ellen and Allison as the co-chairs and myself as the primary staff, that we want to support you and we want you to know that you're not alone. We're going to give you resources and support and training. And then also where it talks about encouraging shared responsibilities, some people love leading alone and some people love leading by delegating to others. So I think figuring out where you want to step up and where you want to step back, what it means to have different people hosting or leading the conversation. We really want you to feel like the tribe is something that everyone helps take ownership of and that different people in the tribe feel empowered. And that's really a great way to make sure you're not carrying all of the responsibilities of being a tribe leader. You can really own it, and you can also decide with your tribe how different people can share some of the ownership and responsibility.
So I am supposed to tell you what a tribe leader is, and Ellen just told you what a tribe leader is. So my thinking is that this is very repetitive because the purpose is to show you that being a tribe leader is really not as hard as people might think. So to talk about what is a tribe leader. So as Ellen said, you're going to be the leader of the tribe and you're going to make sure that the tribe meets on a regular basis. But the thing about being a tribe leader is, and I think having everybody in the tribe share in the programming and what's going to be in our tribe, we all take a month and the tribe leader plans that out as far in advance as people are willing to commit. And so, but as the tribe leader, my tribe leader, she is the one that even if I'm in charge of the next meeting, she's going to be the one that sends out the email to the tribe and says, okay, this is what we're doing. So-and-so is leading the meeting. Let us know if you can attend. And so she's always the one that is going to be getting the meeting going. So we typically come in, we have a little social time, and then the program starts. So the leader's going to be the one that says, okay, everybody, now's the time, start the program. Whoever's leading the program will lead the program. Oh, I forgot. Well, we actually say a blessing to create that space, that special space that we've created by being tribe members. So we have a blessing that we say at every meeting. And so we start our program with that, and then we proceed to the next part. And I say she because my tribe leader is a she, but as a tribe leader, you will always be the one, I think, that the members are going to turn to and expect you to carry along the evening, but you're not, as Ellen said, primarily responsible, because you can be the one that's primarily responsible or you can share it. And this talked about your responsibilities as a leader, and you can see it's very specific about trying to meet once a month, this says 10 months of a year, because I know that we haven't met in, ours is the third Saturday of the month, sometimes a holiday falls, so we might not meet that month. Or sometimes a lot of people travel in the summer, so we've had a couple of months in the summer where we may decide as a group not to meet. So that's the, really, when you think about being a leader, it is being a leader because you're in charge, but you are sharing this. I wanted to say one thing about, I'm just looking at this and I apologize. I do think it's important, as we're going to keep talking about as the coach, that you will have someone to help you through this process. And while we're just getting you, if you decide to lead a tribe and launch a tribe, it's going to be the three of us that are really going to work with you to get to that point where you're ready to fly free. And once you are at that point, then you will be assigned a coach who's going to check in with you regularly, but that you will be free to check in with as well. And then we'll always be available. We also have a team that we work with. It's called the leadership team. And those are people that we meet with regularly to provide support to the tribes and figure out what we need to do. But beyond that, there's also, and I apologize, Andy, if this is later on in the thing, curriculum, we try to get the tribe leaders together to have feedback sessions. So we know it's important not just to hear what we have to say or what a coach has to say, but it is important to hear what other tribe leaders have to say. And so we found that, well, I'm not a tribe leader, but Andy and the core leadership before has found that that's really a productive and useful way to figure out how to be a better tribe leader. So I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we
I wasn't sure if this next page, Andy, I was supposed to talk about basics for hosting and all, or is that
we skipped over that. Just this is our first time. We previously have done this in person, where we've had about an hour and a half to 2 hours where it included dinner, and adapting this on Zoom. I'm about to be invaded by a 3-year-old. Okay, I love you. Have a good night. The joys of Zoom where it's live. You never know what you're gonna get. So in the spirit of time and knowing that, many of us are facing Zoom fatigue, we wanted to try to shorten the training and make it as efficient as possible. So we definitely encourage you to look through the guide later. Some of the tips I think Ellen and Allison have hit on already in regards to, having a nice welcome, having a nosh. We're Jews, we love food. Starting with a blessing, any ritual you can create really just helps set the tone, even if it's on Zoom. Something Ellen brought this year to our tribe leadership team meetings. We meet monthly, and each time that she's big into mindfulness, and we've really done a great job where it's been nice to separate that meeting as our sacred time together and putting everything else aside. We've done different relational conversations, get to know you activities. It could be, last night we met and it was name all the states you've lived in. People started playing Jewish geography. Previously it was, share the most recent picture on your phone. And some people had a vacation, whatever you can do on a vacation during this time. It was them going for a walk or maybe going to their lake house, or I had a picture of my children. So it's different things that you can do to really make that time and space special for you and your tribe. Ritual and tradition. We're obviously a people of tradition. If you've watched Fiddler on the Roof, that's one of the greatest lines. And having a break, having a covenant. We talk about accountability a lot. I think when you're able to create that ritual and routine and tradition from a nice welcome, the relational conversations, checking in with one another, like we said earlier, it doesn't always have to be, we don't want it to ever feel like it's just work. We want you to be able to nosh and relax and come together. And we want you to get down to business, whatever your tribe's business is, whether it's drinking wine and talking about Jewish communities from Italy to South America and everywhere in between. If it's, a writing tribe or a movie tribe, we know that every tribe is coming together. At the end of the day, people are coming together to be in relationship with one another, and they're gathering together based on their interests. So the tips that we've really found that have been most helpful is just creating that routine, helping be able to connect with one another, creating a safe space and confidentiality, I think, is extremely huge. It's important to have trust. It's important to be able to come to that space, and really that is your space. That, you know, the time is sacred, the space is sacred, the respect is sacred. And I think that, you know, the tribes have taken a brief, which we have shared. I think it is in this agenda at a later point. Next, I don't want to take Ellen's. So at the end of the day, I will say it is important to create rules that are meaningful to you and your tribe. And with that, I will pass it off to Ellen, who will talk about the sample brief as I continue to scroll down.
Okay. Well, one of the things I was going to say with the brief, we in our tribe, part of how we begin is actually reading. We kind of have two briefs. One has to do with how we do our writing process, and the other is sort of more general rules like show up and that kind of stuff. It could be merged into one, but part of our ritual of beginning, which is also really helpful, is we read the Brit every time, even though it's, you know, like, yeah, we know this. I would suggest if you all happen to be, on page 17 of our thing, and Andy's got it in the blue thing on the end, to when you do a brief, you may want what I want to say, a full one, sort of like the example here with accountability. And then we say a little bit what we mean by accountability. You know, presence, confidentiality, vulnerability, respect, no fixing, advising, saving, listening. I want to say personally listening with a whole heart, curiosity, shared ownership. For the brief, and as you create the brief together, and what does that mean? It can be a group activity. If y'all don't work that way, it can be a couple people. It can be one person taking the sample brief from the congregation saying, do we like this? Do we want to tweak this? You know, I mean, if it's not working as a group activity, as long as there's inclusion, at least in terms of tweaking it or adopting it. You know, and you can also adopt it, by the way, as things move on. In our original one, we did not have an explicit, please we will turn off our cell phones. And one member kind of never did that. So we kind of brought it up in one of the meetings, like, why don't we add that? And pretty much everyone wanted to, so we did, you know, and she still sort of has that problem sometimes, but at least it's in writing. And I don't feel bad about saying, oh, why don't we all turn off our cell phones, you know, when it rings in the middle of the meeting. But my personal experience within the ritualizing of a brief, if you're sort of going over it at the beginning of every meeting as part of your opening, whatever, have like a highlighted version, because I was in another tribe and it's sort of a wordy paragraph kind of brief. It's like a page with things just in writing without sort of bullet points. And once or twice that's been read. And my experience is that's more difficult and more to get meaning from, to read like an entire sort of essay about what we promise. And, you know, if people are part of creating it, excellent. And if every meeting reminder, perhaps reading the bullet points, you know, might be just what you need, and sharing that, doing round robin, you know, like I read one, you know, say, Andy, you know, you read two, and just sort of do that. I don't have a sense that we need to go through, you know, the details of the brief. One of I suppose, like on the left column, there's a bit of a contradiction, in at least my copy of the manual. It does, number one, is you do want in the brief how often you're going to meet. And I think that's a really good idea. Under number 4, it's like things you do not need to include, frequency of meetings. But I think the overall consensus is number 1, rules you do want to say in your brief, how often you're meeting, and if it's logistically so much easier if it works for y'all to have, like, you know, Allison mentioned they're the 3rd Saturday. I'm the 2nd Wednesday of the group I lead. It just makes it easier, but I know not all tribes have done that. Some go through sort of a, you know, using the online scheduling tools of, you know, and sort of voting and finding when people are available next. It certainly can be done that way, and to accommodate a lot of schedules, it may have to be done that way. For me, that feels like more work, but if that's what makes it most inclusive for people, you know, either you take it on, or that might be responsibility that someone shares with you if you're doing Doodle or whatever the, you know, the various tools are to make it fairly straightforward. Let's see.
Helen, I can speak from personal experience.
Go ahead.
I happen to be in a tribe with other men, all of whom happen to be fathers. We have kids as young as Abby's a little over 1, up through high school, and everywhere in between. So lots of different school schedules. preschool, public school, private school, many different school systems. And we go the other route where we know we're going to meet on a Sunday of every month because that's the day that we can meet, but we typically don't even plan it until 4 weeks out. And that's also been an adjustment since COVID hit, just because it's that much harder to plan with children what you're doing a couple of weeks from now. So I think that is really important to know that every tribe really does find its own way to figure out how they're going to choose to meet and how often and what time works best for everyone.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking, again, in interest of time, it's all in writing. If anybody has any related questions or want to ask right now, I'm thinking we can continue on.
Yes.
We're gonna I have a question.
Go ahead. Yes.
This is a little hard for me because it's very general right now. You know, a lot of these instructions are, which makes sense because we're all coming from different places and going to have different groups. But I'm wondering, because you guys have this great bird's eye vision of all the tribes, what's a tribe or an example of a tribe or two that initially you were like, this doesn't seem like it's going to be successful? You know, nothing like a wine and geography. It's something a little more like obscure, but that ended up being successful, and why?
I will say, you know what, I've learned that because we have such a large congregation, we are definitely quite diverse in a variety of ways, whether it's, you know, background, upbringing, or interests, or where we live. I think that it's not necessarily the topic that makes the tribe either capable of like reaching greatest success or falling apart or dissolving. I think the characteristic, I will say, of the strong tribes are those that take the breed seriously, create the routine, and really share ownership. I think when you have a leader that runs at it alone, it's hard to create accountability or a desire to be there when you feel like you don't actually have ownership of the thing you're showing up to. Whereas if I'm responsible for hosting once a year, like, again, I think it's up to the tribe to really come together and decide what works best for them. I think the opposite end, I will say, that's a question you didn't ask, but I'll give you an answer anyway, is the tribes that have dissolved or struggled, I think, are the ones that don't have the routine down or don't have shared ownership, or they're sort of just waiting for someone else to run. I think it's, you know, I recognize some people are born strong leaders. Some people have to be coached. Some people have to be trained. I think it really comes down to the leaders and the tribes getting to know one another and figuring out how they all together as a team can keep the tribe going. And that's really been the most successful tool to keep the tribes going. Does that help answer your question? And I want to make sure Ellen and Allison can add on.
Sort of, but specifically, which tribe? Like, if I was going to shadow a really successful tribe, who would I go to?
We have, I mean, I really feel like we have a lot of really successful tribes. I mean, it's like I'd volunteer, oh, well, you can ask me about my tribe. I think we're doing really well. We've been meeting 2.5 years. But, you know, rather than, and we do, I mean, there's a list of, there's tribes that are going for a couple of years and ones that started and petered, you know, we sort of have records of all that. Just to amplify maybe a little what Andy said, so that I so wholeheartedly agree with, that concept that, as Dusty pointed out, I was quoting Priya Parker, or the Rabbi Letterman was quoting Priya Parker, this generous authority. It's kind of like a paradox, but that it's so powerful. And I think it's so essential for tribe leaders and any leader, frankly. You can't be so chill that you just like, oh, I don't want to grab the power. I don't want to make all the decisions. So like nothing gets done at all. And you can't be so tight with it. Like, if I don't do it, nobody's ever going to do it. And I know I have the best ideas, you know, that's not going to be very conducive for a group either. So this balance of being willing and able to step in and or ask for assistance, either from your fellow tribe members, from outside in, if you're not sure about something, to, you know, to be wholly human, you know, with your fellow tribe members. And we ask that of each of us to be present, but to be not to shy away from responsibility of holding it together as a leader and holding that lightly, to be generous and willing to share, again, from literal responsibilities like, okay, who's going to do the material, to, even guiding the conversation, being sort of the facilitator during a meeting. I can't say enough that I really think which is sort of like, and this is why we're meeting and trying to train leaders, but it's kind of an ephemeral idea, to what is generous authority? How do you, I use all sorts of images, listen, it's like a heart with ears, listening with, wholehearted to other people, but knowing when it's time to cut in or sensing when it's time to cut in and redirect or pull the time up. Someone's been really holding the mic, so to speak, a long time. It's the tone set much more than the content. So again, I feel like I tried to answer, and you still might say, yeah, but I want to know what, what a successful tribe looks like.
It's okay. Ellen, what's your tribe? Oh.
It's a writing tribe where we write together and then read it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sandy's in your tribe, right?
Yes, Sandy also. Yes, she is. Yeah.
Okay, good to know. So last question. I have a small group at the synagogue. We're not yet a tribe, but we might become a tribe. And we're hoping to grow our group, our tribe. How do we register to become a tribe? And then how do we advertise our tribe?
That is a great question. And I'm gonna ask, it's definitely on the agenda. I want to get to it. And I think there's a few things, we're almost there. And I want to address a few other things as we are on that journey to help answer the rest of your questions. Does that work for you? Cool, thank you. And the one other thing that it's hard to select one tribe, because I think I think we have over 30, I don't remember the exact number. It's somewhere between 30 and 36 tribes. I think all of them are so successful for a variety of reasons. Sometimes it's based on the leaders, sometimes it's based on the participants, sometimes it's based on it's a unique topic that no one else offers, and it's a great way for Jews to gather and talk about whatever the subject is. So I think that the tribes that continue to exist for a variety of reasons. And I think, there's so many different variables. Something Rabbi Class originally asked, and I recognize it's not on the agenda, but I do think it's important to cover here as we talked about coaches. A lot of times, not just in the Jewish community, but in general, a lot of times there's this top-down approach, and the tribe model, we really want to flip that script. So if you notice, there's really an inverse triangle here where similar to how we said each congregant is at the center of the Venn diagram, we really say every single temple member is at the center of Temple Bethel. We are a temple because of our congregants. Our staff show up because of our congregants. Our committee leaders and our board show up because of our congregants. So it is each and every temple member that is really at the core of the tribe model as well. So, at the top or bottom, depending on which way you look at the triangle, the reality is the member is at the core. The individual temple member, the tribe participant, is supported by their group leader, who really organizes and gathers the group and guides the group. The group leaders are supported by the coaches, which is anyone who is either currently or previously was on the tribe leadership team serves as a coach. And then the coaches are supported by the core leadership team. So Ellen and Allison are basically the tribe co-chairs. They're the core team. They work specifically with me, and different clergy come in and out and play various roles as well. And again, we're also only in year 3. So Eli, something you brought up is, we're talking with Rabbi Class about SEDEC and how there's so many things that the SEDEC Council and the issue teams are already doing that community organizing and tribes can absolutely collaborate more and talk about it. Rabbi Nichols is not calling it tribes, but she is doing some amazing small group Hebrew classes for so many of our students. So because we're only in year 3, we've been very much down this path of here is the tribe model. And I think we're at the point where it is about opening our eyes and opening our minds about what other areas of the congregation are they really already doing some small group work where tribes to some extent is a label, but we can all learn from one another. There's so many things that I, as part of the tribe team can learn from the community organizing team. There's so much the community organizing team can learn from the tribe team and so on and so forth. So I think this is really an important structure that really demonstrates how the support really goes both ways. And how an open line of communication also really spells out success for tribes. A couple other, we talked about the three. I guess we are on to the resources and goals, and this part is Allison. I realize the page number may actually be wrong, but Allison, can you cover the why we do ask big questions and talk a little bit about that?
I certainly can. So we've talked about the blessing and how we can create space and make the tribe meeting separate it from any normal gathering. And that we have, then you have your programming, and then you have a big question. And the big question is really where you and your tribe members can really evolve into a deeper relationship, because the question, and in our tribe, everybody, we take turns coming up with a big question, but it's a question that causes you to pause and think and answer. And typically, when you think about a meeting, when you get together with your friends or whatever, if it's a lot of people, in our tribe is 16 people, everybody talks and you have little groups of people talking, but you're not sitting down as a whole and having a conversation. And that's what the big question does. So you see here are some examples of big questions. But yeah, big questions. But this, like I said, this is what takes you to a deeper level within your tribe and what sets the tribe apart. I think it's so important. And what I found is that even I've taken this abstract idea or concrete idea and applied it elsewhere in my life. So if I'm with my kids, we've had times where we sat around the table and asked a big question. And, it's not just about what's happening in your day, but it's really digs deep into your thoughts. But it's not even just that it has to be something that's very deep. At one of our tribe meetings, we just asked everybody where they were from and what it was like to grow up Jewish in that community. So everybody had a story to tell, and it was so interesting. It's kind of like, what state did you live in? It's just this is what I can't say it enough. This is what takes this group to the next level, and that's what makes it so important.
And we will, I want to say role model, we will experience that, because for a few minutes now, and actually, Andy, if you can, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing the screen so nobody's distracted by a thing and we can see each other better. And I've got my chat window open. We don't have a group protocol in terms of, muting and unmuting. Basically, everybody except us speakers have been on mute. I'm going to suggest that basically when you want to talk, sort of do a combo maybe of unmute and raise your hand, just so we can avoid the talking over. The question, it's like, I thought of this without talking to Andy and Allison, and I feel like it sounds like it came directly from half of what we've been saying tonight. But I want you all, the invitation is to consider the question I'm going to pose through the lens of your own experience. I mean, it is something that like one could sort of get all theoretical and academic about. If you have some thoughts about it, by all means, share those too. But I'm really interested in terms of just in your experience. The question is, what turns an ordinary experience into a sacred experience? I'm thinking like a meal can be a meal, or it could be something that, either special or really sacred. Words can be just words, or they can elevate to the sacred, a sunrise. Ideally in your own life experience, can you think of and be willing to share with the group something that could have been ordinary, but really wasn't, and what made it stand apart?
Ellen, you get to go first.
I was going to open it for the group, but
Ellen, is it possible for you to include the question in the chat box just so people can
I think so.
look at it
Yes.
in
Let me try
dimmer?
doing everybody. Yes. So while I'm typing it in, either somebody else can go, or you can all just pause and watch me type.
I'll go. I'm
Thanks,
Betsy.
Thanks.
And I had traveled I have family, my dad's family is from Greece. And so we traveled there probably like 20 years ago. I was early 20s, and we were meeting some distant relatives. And I didn't really think much about it. I was like, oh, this will be interesting to meet them. They don't speak English. We don't speak Greek. So it was going to be kind of a shared meal. And I was thinking, oh, this is going to be really awkward, but it turned into like the most lovely, uplifting, like very connected day where we shared a meal. We all kind of were speaking and trying to talk with our hands, but then, but it was beautiful. And we all, you know, of course, loved the food, connected over food. And then we turned on Greek music and we were in the mountains in this tiny village and we all were Greek dancing together outside, you know, in the middle of nowhere. And it was just this amazing moment that I was like, oh, this is, we all felt it, you know, we all kind of were tearing up as we said goodbye. And we never really spoke to each other. It was just more of like the physical, like holding each other while we were dancing, sharing the meal, even though we all spoke different, you know, different language. It was a feeling I'll never forget.
Mm. That's really lovely, Betsy. And just the description of it again is more powerful than, well, because we did A, B, and C or something, you know, that's what made it just so vivid. Thank you. So, I mean, one came to mind, and I feel like it really, I know we're not supposed to judge our own shares. It really pales compared to that, but it was, I was like, I think I was 14. It was the summer I was 14. And it's the first time I remember experiencing what I would describe as awe, you know, just some divine, mystical something that was beyond words. And it was sunset time. I was in England on a summer program, and you know, I can see the scene. There was like this castle on one side, but there was this tall column with a statue on top that I'm not even sure it was an angel, you know, whether it was supposed to be an angel or a goddess or something, but it was silhouetted with this brilliant sunset behind it. And I mean, that's just the scene, you know, that's just what sticks in my memory. But the experience of the sense of awe, best I can sort of try and describe it was just being wholly and fully present in that moment, appreciating the beauty, but not thinking, you know, if again, I feel like I'm getting analytical about it as I did at the time, but not thinking about anything else. I happened to be alone. I mean, the other people were not within my group at the moment, which in a sense, sort of a lack of a part of what I think can make something super sacred. But it just felt like a connection with, and I was pretty much I guess I was an agnostic, you know, I didn't have any religious background at all. And it was like a felt sensation of something divine and beyond words. Mickey, I saw Mickey and I saw Janice. Mickey, I said your name first and then Janice.
I was going to say Janice could go ahead, but I'll just, it's going to sound strange, but I would describe it by relating it to the polar opposite, or answer the question that way. Years ago, Justice Potter Stewart on the Supreme Court said that he couldn't define pornography, but he knew it when he could see it, when he saw it. And I think that a divine experience is the same sort of thing, or a sacred experience. You can't really describe it before it happens. I don't think you can predict it. And I don't think that you can ever adequately really describe why something you observed or experienced was to the extent that you feel it. And so they just happen. I think they tend to happen more when, you know, in situations where we're confronted by nature. I think they sometimes happen when we're just confronted by an abundance of wholesomeness, like the experience in Greece. And, you know, sometimes, you know, with something like a birth, which is an abundance of wholesomeness. But, you know, I think that you just sort of have to hope that you have a few and realize that that's about as good as it will get.
And I'm compelled to ask, have you any in memory that you would be inclined to share just for you personally?
Trying to think. I mean, again, I don't know that it would register as well. Oddly enough, one may have been after a near accident when we had a situation where, you know, I thought that we were about to lose somebody, and we didn't. It was sort of a kind of like something out of movies where somebody falls off a cliff and then they get caught by something that just barely was able to catch them. And oddly enough, the you know, outcome of that when it was over, there was sort of a sacred experience feeling to it. But again, when you describe it to third parties, it doesn't seem so.
Well, again, thank you for sharing. And just because, I mean, just to me, the fact that it was to you and, you know, you experienced it that way is what's meaningful to me, as opposed to, you know, I want to explain why that was sacred. Does that make sense? I mean, it really, to me, it's meaningful simply that you experienced it that way. So I thank you. I thank you for sharing that. Janice, you still up?
Okay. Well, I couldn't think of anything when you first posed the question, but when you said age 14, it brought back to mind something that happened to me that really changed the whole focus of my life and where I went. And it's so amazing. I was only 14 and I went to an experimental school. I was chosen to go to an experimental school where we didn't have formal instruction. And we were just supposed to be able to just learn and absorb it and all that. Well, most of the kids, especially the boys, were just wild and crazy and running around all of the time, but the teachers weren't allowed to interfere with that. We were supposed to be learning. And I basically sat there and read all the time because I was a big nerd anyway and loved to read. But I didn't feel like I fit in at all, which has been pretty much all of my life. I haven't fit in. And so I was trying to fit in. So I used a racial slur. And there was a janitor there in the room sweeping up and everything. And I looked at him. He was an older man. I would say maybe 60 or something, which now that's not all that old, but to a 14-year-old, that's old. And I looked at him and he had such pain in his eyes that it broke my heart. And if I could have pulled the words back, I would have, and I wasn't mature enough to go and apologize to him or anything, but that stuck with me and has stuck with me all of my life since then. So I started reading about racial equality and, you know, all kinds of things. Of course, that was definitely going against my parents and everything. And as many of you know, my first husband was African-American and my children are biracial. So it led to a whole entire life that I would have never dreamed of at 14, just because I did that one terrible thing, but my eyes were opened because I was able to see the hurt in this person and see them as a human and as, you know, that I had really erred there. So that had the biggest and had a very big impact on my life.
Thanks so much, Janice. Yeah, I mean, we talked about the sacred power of words, but sacred pain also, and opening that for you. I appreciate that. Any other thoughts, memories, or feelings Dusty.
I keep coming to Rosh Chodesh right now. Like that's what I keep thinking of as I when I heard your question, as I asked the question. Some of you have been in that room, and it's only ever been a Zoom room. And I think one of the things that's really been like beautifully surprising about it is that every single month since we began this, I have thought like, well, this is the last month. No one's gonna show up. It's 8 p.m. I forgot to tell anyone it's happening. Everyone's really busy. There's so many reasons for people to not show up. And I think what's been interesting for me, and what I think there's pieces of it, there's a couple of pieces that have made it work. One is that the only people who come are people who genuinely want to be there, right? So unlike confirmation this year, which is a bunch of 10th graders who are stuck showing up at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday night in the middle of their very crazy Zoom week already because their parents have made them, no one comes to Rosh Chodesh unless they want to. And I think that actually shifts the space. I think at this point when people come, they know what they're coming to as well. And they're like ready to put their whole presence into the space. And I think that shifts it for me as well. And like, I am a student of Priya Parker, who has been mentioned here at least once already. And she talks a lot about, her book is called The Art of Gathering, but she talks a lot about the ways that shaping a gathering changes the feel of the gathering itself. And I do think that like the way that the people who come to Rosh Chodesh buy into an opening and the vulnerability of sharing the name of somebody you're thinking of, or a feeling that you're bringing into the space, of like lighting a candle, of like doing the like things that in other spaces or other places with the same people might feel woo woo, right? To come there and just like own it and do it has been really meaningful for me as a leader.
Yeah, thank you, Dusty. And actually, I'm not going to bother to type it into the chat box, but I was going to say that book, The Art of Gathering. I mean, it's like it's a book, you know. So we don't ask that much of leaders. Well, you must read this book. You know, we give you a 20-page handout and say read this. But honestly, that book to me is really what leading, you know, the generous authority, what it means to create that space is all about. It's absolutely a wonderful, wonderful book, The Art of Gathering, I think, right, Dusty, Priya Parker. Winnie.
I think I'm going to go back to when I was 5 years old. It was the Second World War, and my father decided that we should have a victory garden, which was something that was being promoted. And so he gave me some radish seeds to plant in the ground. And it was, to me, miraculous that I put these little pearl-like seeds into the ground and radishes grew. And I think as a result, I'm a gardener. And so in many ways, my garden has some real sacred qualities. If I'm troubled, it seems that I can really bury those troubles out there in the dirt. And it all started with some radish seeds.
Thank you, Winnie. That's awesome. I am looking at the clock, and I would love to continue, but I think in being respectful for everybody's time, that will be it for today, but maybe that'll whet your appetite for just wanting to continue to do this kind of thing. I did see Mickey post a question wanting to know something about the process, and if it's about this kind of leading, I'm thinking maybe do a quick ask now and then segue on to our final agenda.
Well, if somebody wants to call me offline, they can. This is, you know, I sort of attended this. It's what tribe leader training, and I'm not quite sure. I'm pretty long way from sure that I'm going to be a tribe leader, but I wanted to find out a little bit more about how one goes from attending a tribe leader training to actually forming a tribe.
It's like you're a plant, Mickey. That's the perfect segue. Andy, take it
And
away.
one doesn't have any idea.
I promise I did not pay him to ask that question. We will definitely
Yeah,
answer it.
I only ended up here because I asked about a particular type of tribe and was told, why don't you go to the tribe leader training?
Thank you for coming, especially not being sure, honestly. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks.
Definitely. We will definitely address the process. And I'm going to use this also as an opportunity. I keep going back to Eli's question because I think the aspect question that we just did, whatever the curriculum is, we have a variety of curricula online. And I'm going to share some about the resources and the process. I think at the end of the day, making this sacred, like I said earlier, or having a conversation, not making the tribe gatherings feel either like a chore, but also making it more than just showing up, you know, like we talked about geography or wine, or I joked with Eli that I was jealous of his drinking a beer. And I'm like, I would love to just get together and have a beer with some guys. And like, I can do that with anyone, maybe not now during COVID, but like, what is bringing our people together? It may be beer. And like, what is Jewish about that? Or what are we doing to get to know one another and how much we all love beer or how much we all love traveling the world when we're not sheltering in place. So I think that as we talk about curriculum, or as we just answered that ask big question, having those relational conversations. And my tribe, it was around Hanukkah and all of us had children and we talked about light and miracles and how our children make our worlds a brighter place and one of the darkest times of the year, both literally and figuratively. And we really learned a lot about each other. And that was something really special just to have that conversation that really helped us learn about each other. And Mickey, to answer your question, the process, I'm gonna not share my screen. I originally was, but I actually really enjoy seeing all of your faces. And it's also really hard to share your screen and also pay attention and try to be able to see your faces as well. So really one of the big things, I'm gonna put a few different links in the chat box. And I will say up front, we will absolutely email all of you afterwards, either tonight, I'd say in the next 24 to 48 hours. I'm going to put all of these links here. Please do not feel overwhelmed. It was just a lot easier for me to copy and paste all of them at once. And like I said, you will get them in email. One of the things I was going to talk about is the tribe leader resources. You happen to see some of the curriculum that we shared for Ask Big Questions. There are many other relational questions, different curricula that we offer. Rabbi Class is doing a social justice book discussion in the coming weeks, and we've added that curriculum to our tribe resource page because we want people that are either currently in tribes to be able to follow along with some amazing things that our clergy are doing. Either they can do it as a tribe or they can choose to do it as an individual, and they can do it along with Rabbi Class, or they can take their curriculum and run with it on their own schedule. So I think that having the resources available, having the curriculum, we have the relational questions. I wanted to make sure I pointed out all of those resources. To answer the real question about the process, there are, oh, I lied. There are two other forms that I did not yet share that really answer Mickey's question. So and again, I'm also happy to talk more with any of you offline, as are Ellen and Allison. If you go to this link that I just shared, it's called the Tribe Leader Info Form. For those of you that may have shown up previously to at the Tribe launch party, whether or not you did, think club fair, you know, all of the different clubs around the room. They all had giant posters up. So again, this is all on our tribe website. The big thing really is if we need to talk more, let's absolutely have the conversation. This is basically a way where we can have you fill out your information. Once you fully commit. And if you're not ready to commit, we definitely want to answer your questions and walk through the process and make sure you feel comfortable. If you feel like you may want a co-leader, we want to help support you and make this as easy of a process for you as we can. There's an opportunity to say, hey, I don't want to lead this. I'm not leading this alone. I have a co-leader in mind. You include their information. We definitely would love for you to share with us if you want this tribe to be open or closed or partially open. We really do want tribes to be as inclusive and accessible as possible. And one of the greatest problems we've had is that our tribes have been immensely successful. And we have more people that want to be in a tribe than we have tribe leaders. So I love that all of you are here. Some of you, like Eli mentioned, you already know some people, and you probably have an idea of some people that are already have a desire to be in your tribe. And maybe you're wanting to also meet new friends or get more people in your tribe involved in whatever the passion or theme of your tribe. So if you're able to say, hey, I want this tribe to be open, I absolutely want new members, I have a few people in mind, we want to hear from that. We want to hear from you to make sure we can help support you. And you may say, like, look, I want to lead a tribe. I really want the temple to support me. I already have my people, my 10 people, and here's my tribe. I really just want this to be closed. We rather support you and let you have your closed tribe and really support you and 9 other congregants getting together on a consistent basis. And then further down in the form, it's really like the who, the what, the when, the where, and the about you, where we want to make sure we can accurately promote your tribe. And whether or not it's open or closed, if it is closed, we still want to highlight it, because you may have an amazing idea that someone else is like, ooh, this tribe's full, or oh, this tribe's closed, but I love that idea and I'm willing to run with it. You know, we originally started with one geography and wine tribe, and we had 50 people that wanted to be in it. And that's not a small group. And we basically found, you know, we were able to match 15 people with that one tribe leader, and we found 2 other, or it was really 4 other tribe leaders that co-led the other 2 geography and wine tribes. So that's something that's really helpful for us to be able to advertise each of the tribes effectively, is the tribe info poster that I just shared with y'all. I will say, I want to make sure I cover everything. My hope is that for those tribe leader info, if you're able to fill out that form, and again, we'll email it, I would say think about it and take the weekend, tomorrow, or the next week or so. I would ask if you are committed to doing this. Our goal is that we could have you fill out the form by next Friday, February 19th. And then our goal is really to take the month of February. If there's any questions or follow-up that we need to do with you, we can talk with you about the process. And then ideally by, the beginning of March, we will be able to begin to advertise the tribes to the larger congregation. So we're wanting to try to do this all in once. Mickey, I will say, I don't know if I'm gonna pretend you're not talking about yourself, and regardless of who you're talking about, I don't think anyone is hopelessly bad at running things, because the amazing thing about Temple Bethel and the tribe model and Alan and Allison is no one is hopeless, no one is helpless, and we are probably the most helpful group of people. And this is such an amazing community that you are not alone. Whether it's the core team, the coach, the staff of Bethel, the people in your tribe, you are not alone. And I think that is extremely important to know. And I just got a private question, which I think is a really helpful question, especially with all of COVID and Zoom. Someone asked, what about Zoom links, or is Temple able to help provide Zoom links? And that is something we actually did invest in, a couple of professional Zoom accounts. Some of you may have them for work or personal reasons already. That being said, one of the tools we want to provide is, if you need a professional Zoom account, we're shifting some administrative responsibilities, but at the end of the day, you can email. For now, I will say email me, and we will eventually get you to the right staff person, but we will help you. We will set up a Zoom meeting for you, give you access so you can sign in, put it in our schedule so you have access to a Zoom account. If you know a full year at a time where you want the 3rd Sunday of every month, let us know and we'll set it up for you. And all you have to do is click on a link and forward that link to your tribe. I'm trying to look through my other notes to make sure I cover stuff. The other thing I will say that I think is really important is, you're not responsible for filling your tribe. This is a congregational priority to help our congregants connect with one another. And one of the reasons why we ask for you to do the poster is we do want to help you advertise your tribe, whether it's in our Facebook group or in our What's Happening weekly email and other places. So if you have the idea, my goal, and Alan and Allison, I will speak for them and I want them to also speak for themselves, but we will work with you and help you make this happen, because by you making this happen, it helps the congregation be stronger. It helps more people get to know one another, and it helps our congregants connect. And really, at a time like now, I mean, it's always been important for congregants to be seen, heard, known. And now more than ever, it's that much more important when people are feeling isolated, alone. And I will say, as someone whose tribe started right as COVID hit, even though we didn't get started until a few months into COVID, it's been one of the greatest. I spend my life on Zoom because this is my job and I love doing it. And it's like, that is one of the greatest Zoom calls that I look forward to. So I will tell you, like, having a group of people that you can get on Zoom with and eventually meet up in person. Some of our tribes have gotten together in person. So we want to support you. We want you to take ownership of your tribe. And we also don't want you to feel alone. So at the end of the day, I feel like as I'm talking about this, I'm just getting more and more excited about all of you hopefully filling out this tribe poster. But also, we really do want you to feel supported with all of the resources and having all of the toolkits, all of the tools that you need. And one thing I also just realized I forgot is Ellen referenced the book, or I think Ellen referenced the Priya Parker book, and I think someone else talked about a book. We actually have Relational Judaism. There was originally a book by Ron Wolfson that was all about relational Judaism, and there was a second part to that book written by Ron Wolfson, as well as Rabbi Lydia Medwin at the Temple and Rabbi Nicole Auerbach of Central Synagogue. And they actually wrote like a Relational Judaism 2.0, very specific to small groups. And that is actually a phenomenal book. Rabbi Knight wrote a chapter, lots of different clergy wrote chapters in this book to really help people create that relational Judaism where it's a one-on-one connection or group dynamics. And that is something typically we've passed out in person when we've had the in-person trainings. I will commit to making sure that all of you registered, so we have all of your addresses, and I will make sure we can send all of you a copy of this book, because whether or not you officially commit to being a tribe leader, I think this book is also an amazing resource that could help you feel more comfortable and confident as a tribe leader. Does that help answer your question, Mickey, about the process? Or is there, and at this point in time, I feel like we are at the point where we want to open it up to larger Q&A. So I want to let Alan and Allison, I keep mixing up their names or joining them together.
Sure.
Alan and Allison, if you want to join, or Mickey, if you have another question.
No, I'm just going to tell you it's close enough for now.
Perfect.
I just want to say there was a question about the list of tribes and what they were. And if you follow these links, and there's one that says Find My Tribe, that will give you the posters on all the existing tribes. But if you were to just say, I have found my tribe, and you were to click on, like you were going to choose a tribe, they're all listed there, just so you can get an idea of existing tribes.
Thank you. That was actually, I realized that was one of the last links that I accidentally left off. The other thing, we want to make this process fair. As we said, we want it to be inclusive and accessible to all congregants. As much as you may have friends who you know are already committed to joining your tribe, one thing we will request is the last link we sent, which again, we will send again. This really helps us as a staff make sure we have everything centralized, to make sure we're able to move all of the pieces forward in all of the ways, both collecting contact information, connecting tribe participants with their tribe leaders. So if you know people that are wanting to join your tribe, once we get the posters finalized, the Help Me Find My Tribe form is basically where we eventually will put all of your posters. And that is going to be a way where people can say, ooh, I have lots of different ideas, but here are my top 3 choices. And we really we want to make sure everyone gets at least one of their top 3 choices. So as much as possible, we want people to fill out that form, just because it helps us make sure that we're able to do it through the proper systems that Bethel has, and it helps make sure that our staff is able to be on top of all of the moving pieces. And yes, Jen happened to, I think in the form, you'll see there's a part where it says click here to find your posters, and that's the link that Jen Clark just shared. Shows you all of the different tribes we currently have. And something I will say, and please, if there's any other questions, we're towards the end and I want to respect everyone's time. I do want to make sure we acknowledge that the success of tribes is really a huge testament to the hard work Beth El has put forth, and also due to the generous funding of the Jewish Federation of Greater Charlotte. We have been a recipient of originally what was their Impact and Innovation Grant for 3 years. And since then, we've moved into the allocations process. And that's something that it's the first time Beth El has ever been a part of the allocations process, because this has been such a successful initiative that we've gone beyond the 3-year Impact and Innovation Grant and have formally become part of the allocations process. And the Federation helps fund this initiative. Where, earlier this year, and I think we talked about having some tribe leader gatherings, but we do some tribe gatherings, whether it's doing Zoom training or helping tribe leaders connect with one another to talk about successes, challenges, etc. We're gonna, when we're in person, we'd love to do a tribe Shabbat dinner together. We're gonna do a tribe comedy night later in April, where we're gonna do something for all of our tribes to come together and really just enjoy a nice evening together. So I think that's also know that you have, if or when you whether join a tribe or lead a tribe, I think it's something really cool that you're a part of an amazing network where you have your leaders and your coaches in place, and there's 300 to 400 other people just like you that are always a resource and a phone call or an email away. I've done lots of talking, and I appreciate all of you for doing lots of listening. Ellen or Allison, do you have anything else to add, and/or are there any other outstanding questions? I feel like we've tried to be thorough. I appreciate everyone's flexibility. This is the first time we're doing it on Zoom. So if you have any private feedback for me on how we can continue to make this a successful training, please feel free to email me. And Ellen and Allison, I want to pass it back to you in case you have anything else to add or open it up to any other questions.
I have nothing else to add other than just, feel free if there are questions now, ask away. And if you think of one later, email or call.
Yeah, I think I just want to say Andy speaks really fast. And so if you have any questions about the process he just said, please ask, because we don't want you to leave this meeting scratching your head and not really being sure of what your next step is. I saw Eli had a question. So was it Eli? Yeah, right? Eli had a question. So.
No.
Oh, you're saying
Thank you. And thank you very much for this presentation. I'm feeling pumped up to start my tribe or to transition my group to tribe.
Awesome. We
That's
love it.
great.
And this is also being recorded. So if I spoke too fast and you didn't pick up on something or you need to listen to it in slow motion, you can re-listen to it. We'll put it up on our YouTube Charlotte page, and we'll also make sure to send that link out as well. So I really love seeing all of you here. I know I've had many great conversations with many of you already, whether it be about tribes or something else, Temple Beth El. So I appreciate all of you committing to showing up. And Alan and Allison, I really want to recognize you all for the amount of work and effort you put in this year. So thank you to the two of you as well.
With regard to the fast talking, we could maybe have a tribe on how to speak Southern.
Most people never know it. I'm actually born and bred. I grew up in Georgia, but I sound like I just went from New York.
I just wanted to thank you all as well for coming and either hopefully committing, but just letting your curiosity at least lead you this far. And we hope you'll continue in the journey. So thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you.